foundation promotion we've been doing. I imagine that you guys have seen the little ads. So this is actually an outlet from the old building. And we've been taking it down and repurposing it. So we've been putting everybody's logos and however they want to read out there from their donations. And I actually am really hoping that we can fill it just like we have the old building. We used to have head to toe, just old farmwood. I really hope that someday we can get back to that, like in the new building.
Time to ask buy a spot.
Buy a spot! Buy a spot!
Hi, Marie.
We've got our mail room for here. It's the most important building, part of the building, actually. We took all of our old stuff from the building. Oh yeah, we're going to do furniture, brand new. That's actually really cool. But we'll get there, actually, right? But so upstairs, actually, that's where I'll be.
How are you? I'm just gonna go sit. Do what you're doing. I'm not back here. Okay. I'm down on this side of that.
Well, no, I think there's like you got a lot of gas on grass right now. I had a few things I wanted to just bring up a little bit. I mean, I need more voice too.
I think we're making progress. That shit, that paradigm of you're working for the reader and you do what they want, that's a new shift in focus. What do you say?
Yeah, but I think most of us have found that we can manage it, or at least the younger guys. They don't have an issue because I manage that relationship. You know? So,
But I think I've been telling you guys, you know the sales of your customers. Block that out. Okay, if you end up not going, so that's a hell of a lot better to say I'm not going to go after hours than the other way around.
Mr. Goosey was talking earlier. It's hard to tell communication from
Exactly.
that's why I've been just I can't do anything about it. I can stay up on
Bringing it up about the
Oh, yeah.
Well, we talked about that. You know, yeah, and you know, we may need to look at these things at a little more of a straight scale or something. Well, and the bottom line is communication has something. So, what do you
Next call,
There was nothing. Hi there. How are you? Good to see you. So glad you're here. Yeah, that's good. Nice shirt. That's all your crew. I'm gonna excuse me. I'm gonna get some stuff in.
Taking pictures.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna need help. I'm gonna sneak by.
Life isn't better tour around the building.
Yeah, I think it's down there.
Yeah, and the other time, I'll say, get it out. I'm good. How are you,
Where are you at? I'm right here.
What's that? No? You got a little bit of help in there. It's not as bad as they're cutting it. It's gonna start cutting it. Are you going to first cutting got a little tough because it had a irrigation down there. First cutting some of the guys are tough.
The camera moved here so I can go down there. I'm going over there.
Getting it all in. Mind your way.
No. Looks like they might be getting hit. Good.
I think it's that.
Just wave. Yeah, that's okay. Hi.
Stuck in the corner, are you?
I like that.
That's where you got that blue tape. Then you give it to me.
I know. You do good. Let's get Jackie.
Probably doing 10 things at one time. Like, hi.
You're on camera.
I know.
Back up a little bit.
Is there a place I could get a name tag? Please, hi.
I'll do it.
Do they know? I gotta get out with the camera. I feel like we're in a parade. Can you hold the door? Oh yeah. Thank you. Where's she? I have to go that way to open this way.
We haven't been all the way
Oh, you're the gal that put me on. I did, I'm sorry. I told you too late. You know what, you're beautiful.
There's guys everywhere. I guess we bad.
Thank you.
What are you
Primarily Simmental. Canned Angus, red Angus cows. At some point.
Well, I just hate
We own several of them. And in fact, gosh,
She's awesome.
my first trip down there, running irons.
Hello, everybody. This is awesome. I need a favor. If you're a trustee, would you please stand there by the there in the middle? If you're not staff nor trustee, if you would, we're going to ask you to come out here in front so you can see. If you're staff or a trustee, you kind of got to stay over here. I think is what they tell me. FYI, the rep team, that includes you. If you're a rep, you need to be up here in the front. If you're staff, trustee, or an ASA rep, we need you up here in the front.
Pretty nice.
There he is. Here's the bird.
Yeah. I guess Richard Lake. This is not very far. Richard Lee. He's our great means and always do that.
I met some of those folks. I lived in Denver for a long time. A lot of those folks.
And then we bought most of our outlander cows that we bought came from these ASA numbers. That's 77 or 79. This goes Scott.
I can take a picture if you want to. Should be on it too.
Tom and Donald gone out.
South I don't know. You got in that position, you've got to do that.
Well, obviously we are super ecstatic you all are here tonight, and this is a pretty big opportunity for everybody involved, and you're going to get a chance to see these folks do something we've been waiting for a long time. You all have invested in seriously, and you get to see that come to fruition. So I think, Dale, do you have the scissors? Who's packing this? You have one of them. Awesome. So if you will, just kind of take a moment, position yourself so you can see.
You want to take a picture? Hey, Chuck, take a photo. Come on, Emily, get up here. Yeah, I saw him back.
Okay, on the count of 3, you may cut the ribbon. 1, 2, 3.
I found out that the grandchild was kind of calling they were robbing her during the day. Problems with keeping them. I was really, when I first got on this thing, I get robbed and Dave Nichols and that whole gang.
What an opportunity to be here in Bozeman, Montana.
I tell you what,
Before we go much further with introductions, I'm going to take over for Chamber of Commerce guy, Daryl, and you're going to get Thank you. Congratulations. First of all, I want to thank you, and on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and our Board of Directors, I'm Daryl Schwinn, President and CEO. I want to welcome American Simmental Board of Directors and hopefully in the near future an international group that can come here to hold your convention. And I will tell you that Wade and his team here have been delightful to work for. Not in a building that's only been 43 years old, which the Chamber of Commerce will continue to work with them at your old site as you move back into and invest in your community inside the city limits of Bozeman. We're very pleased for that investment. I want to thank each of you as a board member for having faith and trust in Bozeman, Montana, and our growth pattern that's here. I think you made the right investment. You can't beat the views probably anywhere in the world from where you're at now compared to where you sat for 43 years, rather than a Montana Department of Transportation and Highway, cars going by. You have some nice views now. A little bit about Bozeman and Gallatin County. For those of you that like growth and growth in your industry, agriculture is still very big for us in Montana State University. You're seeing some major investments being made to continue the agricultural community that's here. Although it now lies in the outskirts of Belgrade, outside of Bozeman, and out into the Four Corners into Three Forks area, agriculture still being the #1 in the state of Montana. We recognize that and thank you for your investment, not only here in Montana, but across the United States and across the world for agriculture. So, Wade, we want to welcome you. Hopefully we're making it much easier. We now have 15 direct flights. Our last one just got landed from Dallas-Fort Worth, American Airlines. We have 15 different areas to go into. We are the largest airport now in Montana. We have 1.2 million people that will go through our fine airport. Our expansion just recently completed, and now talking about currently adding 4 more gates to our airport to come through. We're currently working with Canada, Washington, D.C., and also more direct flights coming in to make Bozeman much easier to get to hold conventions and be able to build business and help you grow your business across the United States and easier to get here. We also are one of the fastest growing in the state of Montana. We produce over 43% of the construction that was done for homeowners, 42% of the gas hookups that were here. Our hotels, I've seen numbers climb from as low as 1,800. We're now at 2,500 as of today, with 7 more hotels planned in the future. Last year, 5 million visitors, which is 46% of the state's visitation, came through Bozeman, Montana. 1.6 million people spent the night or two, and now you understand maybe the vibrancy of the hotel in our downtown. I don't want to take up your time. I want to give you a little brief overview of our economy, where we're at, but most of all to welcome you and thank you, Wade, and thank you for American Simmental for believing in Bozeman, Montana, and making such a beautiful investment here in this new building. So congratulations. Hope you have a great education and fun while you're here in Bozeman. So congratulations again.
Again, I'd just like to back up and thank all the trustees, present, past, that have worked on this for the last several years and making this happen, and from the purchasing of the land to getting this beautiful building built. So, again, just a big thanks to all the trustees who've been involved in this. And of course, without the staff, we wouldn't have got any of it done. So, thanks to them.
So, Daryl didn't say this, but actually he was the backup middle linebacker to Mike Singletary. Actually, he was a Chicago Bear, but he got hurt the year before they made the Super Bowl, so he didn't get a ring. But anyway, I didn't want to rub that in. But, you know, I'm a Viking fan, so anyway, we're here to have fun. We're here. So, we're here to have fun.
That's neat.
And at the same time, we're here to thank all of you for making this possible. And it's truly, we are a membership organization, and the members are what make this possible. Now, I wrote in the history pamphlet that was inside on the desk inside. I wrote that for most of us here, this is a one-time in a lifetime event. For most of us, it's probably not going to be one time. There's only going to be one time we see ASA christen the building. But there are a few people here that have seen more than one christening of new buildings at ASA. We're going to hear from some of them. I would also like to say thanks. We ASA employees, thank you immensely. And you can't imagine, I was quite surprised myself at how much a building like this can raise employee spirits. Now, it's not like, I mean, our employees generally have good spirits. I'm not saying they don't, but I have to say I was surprised at how it just put a little extra skip in their step. And just as an example, this old guy, where is he? Right back in there. Steve McGuire, the longest running employee ASA has ever had, 43 years. Now, and Steve, we had to pry him out of the old building. We actually had to pry him. I'd go over there every 3-4 weeks after everybody else had moved. Steve was still camped out at the old building. We didn't think we'd ever get him over here. He finally made the transition, and just the other day he admitted to me that when he comes to work, he looks forward to it just a little bit more because we have this building. So thank you. Now, if you saw Steve's office, he's got the penthouse suite right there. So you know why he's smiling. So our employees now, they smile when they come to work and they smile when they leave. And thank you. It really has made a difference. What I'd like to do is have our employees come through and introduce themselves. And most of them, you're only going to recognize their voice anyway. So now you'll be able to put a voice, because most of them you just talk to them on a phone. But you will tie their voice to their face, and there is no question in my mind, this is the most powerful set. This is the most powerful set of employees at any breed association, bar none, from top to bottom. So we'll start out with Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Hoagland. I'm a voice you probably don't recognize unless you had problems with faxing or something that somebody else couldn't answer on her phone. So I'm a software developer here, and I take care of phones and faxing. I've been here for about 3 years now, and it's been a Montana State graduate. That too. I came from a small farm on the eastern side of Montana, so it's nice to keep the agriculture going.
Hello everybody, my name is Jackie Atkins. I'm the Director of Science and Education and came on almost exactly the same time as Mary, except I started I think a week earlier, so I have seniority. She had to finish college and I had babies, so you know I was gone for a couple of weeks. But yeah, Director of Science and Education. I've been here about 3 years and I've really loved what I do and love meeting all of you guys and working with all of you guys and enjoying my job.
Jackie has a PhD in reproductive physiology. We're turning her into an animal breeder.
Yeah, I'm trying. They're connected.
I'm Chip Kemp. I live in Missouri. I'm the Director of Member and Industry Relations. I've been with the association flirting with a year now. We're not quite there. Again, I hope you know this, and when I talk to you all, and I get to visit with a lot of you all in different circumstances, I hear consistently how much you appreciate the relationship you have with the staff when you call in, their responsiveness, and they're a remarkable group. Wade nailed it spot on. Selfless. There's so much humility in this team. We work together so well. I might be the lone exception to that, but again, a phenomenal group. And so I say thank you to what you all do, the faith you have in what this group is doing and the direction we're going in. Empowers all of us to do our job just a little bit better. So we look forward to doing more with you. And that's enough from me. Cindy looks like the next target. When you have the mic, you get to pick who goes next.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve.
Hi, I'm Cindy Newell. A lot of you probably met me quite a while ago in Denver in the stock show, and Wade couldn't get rid of me, so he hired me. So, but I'm kind of the face behind email, so those of you who send in to the Simmental email account, I'm usually the one that is taking care of that, and also Heidi as well. So nice to have you all here, and say hi when you get a chance to stop by, and I can put a face to your emails as well.
Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve McGuire. I just got to clarify one thing, make sure everybody understands. He said the oldest person working for the association. I'm not the oldest employee. I've been looking for Dan Reeder. Where is Dan? But no, I've been working for the association for 43 years and enjoyed all 43 years. Thanks. Here he comes.
I was trying to find my way up here, and I didn't hear what he said. Obviously, it was an insult. Yeah, I am the oldest on the staff. Frankie Larson, who just died here a year ago, was on our staff up to the age of 92. I'm only 81. So I got 11 years to go. I was going to quit a year or so ago. Wade talked me into waiting until the building was completed. So now I think I'm stuck. But I'm editor of the Register. I only work 15 hours a week. And I'm enjoying it. So I'll keep coming in every morning. I make the coffee, too. Who's next?
So every day he goes over to the gym and shoots 100 baskets, and you never get below 90, do you? Well, free throws, from the free throw line. And they aren't layups, they're actually free throws.
everyone. My name is Luke Bowman. Recently starting with, actually, won't start with American Simmental until about October. But my role is going to be Director of Commercial and Industry Relations. I feel very fortunate to be part of this team. You know, when I was at an AI stud before, I came to Simmental and had the privilege of working with about 7 to 10 different breed associations around the country. And there is no chance I'd ever go work for another one besides Simmental. This is an awesome staff of people, and even better is the population of diverse breeders. And I hope I can help out in some capacity to make you even more successful. So thank you for the opportunity.
Hi everybody, and this is Mari Sachi. I'm a GS lead genomicist. All those MBV calculations actually comes from the work that we are doing here. I just joined the Simmental Association since this January, but actually my work with Simmental and all of beef industry started since I came to United States in 2010 as a postdoc at Iowa State University. And with the National Beef Cattle Evaluation Consortium and the work that we did, we tested genomic, validated and implemented. So my pleasure to be here and part of the team, and thank you for having me in your team.
Marty used to work with PIC, he worked with pigs, so we saved him. So.
That's exactly what happened. When he was going to ask me to join the Simmental, same time I got a good offer from PIC, and then I decided to go there. But later I found no, it's not all about the money, and then beef industry is different. So that's why I decided back and work. Thank you.
You've probably all heard this voice before.
Oh no, I hope not. Hi guys, I'm Leoma Wells. I work in DNA and total herd enrollment here at the association. I heard someone earlier say how long they've been here. So in October, I will celebrate 10 years with American Simmental. I came from the great state of California and landed in Montana, and Jerry took a chance on me because they'd been striking out with girls from California. And so my predecessors didn't leave me in very good standing. But I promised him I would do a year, and here I am 10 years later. I just find my job to be very interesting, and every day is different, and I love working with the great breeders of this nation. You guys are amazing. Every day is just a great day to come to work. So I thank you for that, and I will pass this over to Heidi. I always want to call you by your maiden name. I was going to say Heidi Todd, but she's Heidi Arlene, right?
So as she said, I'm Heidi Todd. The reason she mentions my maiden name is because I interned when I went to MSU, and it progressed into full-time employment. I am the other face behind the Simmental email, as well as I help with ultrasound, just the processing in general, and then the foundation registrations. So it's an honor to work with such a great breed association, something I am very passionate about, and my heart has always been in agriculture.
Hi everyone, my name is Carla Stevens, and I came from Ohio and came out here. I've been here since October with ASA. I work in accounts receivable, and I will be transitioning over to the DNA department to work with Leoma.
I'm not a public speaker. I'm Linda Harris-Bakken, and I answer your phone. I've talked to most of you. And it's started after to be one of the younger people, and now I'm getting to be one of the older, so I enjoyed it. 39.
Linda's also the keeper of the candy jar. If you want candy, you got to go into her office.
Speaking of the candy jar, so some of our employees here that aren't here tonight have little kids, and you always hear them coming into the office and they shout, Linda, Linda, Linda. She's got the candy jar. I'm Emmy. I've been thankful to meet a lot of you guys as you guys did tours. I work in both the processing department and the publishing department. I work underneath Dan, trying to soak in as much knowledge as I can while he's here, and then I also work part-time in processing with all of the ladies that do the registrations and the transfers and things like that. So, hi. Yes, I'm a Montana State grad. Yep.
We're going to speed this up a little bit. This is the register staff. We're the ones that put together the magazines every month for you. My name is Jim. I started in 1985, and it's been a great run. And next we have...
I'm Cynthia Connor, and I started in 1990, and I'm the one who designs your ads when you send them in.
I'm Nancy Chesterfield, and I don't know when I started, but Earl could probably tell you. So I'm older than dirt, and I am the salesman for the register ads. So if you want to buy an ad, look me up.
Always so. I'm Rebecca Price. I've been here 6 years. I help Nancy coordinate the ads. I do e-blasts, or if you need an e-blast, answer the phones, whatever's needed. So. And I'm Dan's dog.
Yeah. I'm Joel Coleman, and I work on the ads and do sale catalog and mow the lawn and trash or whatever. He does.
I'm Linda Kessler. I'm the financial officer for USA and USA Publications. Yay. A long time.
You don't want me to introduce you.
Hi, I'm Emily Lochner. I started this spring in April, and I'm the director of youth, and so I really enjoyed that. And then I also work with PTP programs, and we are working on improving the foundation and who works with that. And so if you haven't got the opportunity to see our foundation wall right here in the history area, I would definitely encourage you to do so. So this is my sales pitch. We're selling plaques for the foundation. The smaller plaques are for $1,000, and the larger plaques are for $5,000, and they will hang there for a long time, we hope. And so we definitely encourage you to take a look at that. And then if you're interested in getting your name branded in Simmental history, as we call it, then come find myself or Linda Kessler, and we can definitely get you hooked up with that. And then all of your proceeds will go to the American Simmental Simbrau Foundation in either youth, science, or education. And so we hope that you enjoy the office and the new foundation wall. That's all I've got.
Well, in an effort to save my reputation, I decided I would introduce myself so that Wade wouldn't. And I started in 1991, and I'm older than Steve by a few months, so I'm wiser than he is, even though he's had more experience here. That's hard for him to understand, but I remind him from time to time. So I'm now semi-retired, living in Helena, Montana, and I work 20 hours a week for the association in the publications, still do some with the meetings, and one with the foundation and the international market.
Well, I'm Bert Moore, and prior to coming to this, with the Simmental Association, I spent 40 plus years on the faculty at North Dakota State University, home of the Bison, 5-time national champions in football, and actually had some of the people that have already talked in class, and some former board of directors as well. After NDSU, I spent some time with the American Shorthorn Association, and I currently am an area rep, but also work part-time as the state association liaison person.
I'm Bill Zimmerman. I serve as have the opportunity really to lead the area representative team. I've been on board for about 3 years. Just a little bit of Simmental history. About 40 years and a month ago, there was a gathering at West Yellowstone. And in those years, it was called the Summer Conference. For some of you who remember those summer conferences, that was my first ASA event. I had the opportunity to be managing a small Simmental operation back then, and my wife and our 2 little ones and a very pregnant wife came to West Yellowstone for an ASA event 40 years ago. And I remember that one of the reasons that they had the event in West Yellowstone was to encourage people to come up to see the new building.
So Kathy, she'd rather have me introduce her. That's my wife. Do you want to come up, Kathy?
No.
Kathy's kind of shy.
Unless you want me to
That is my wife
sing.
behind the camera. She works on the website, does programming for us. I won't say any more. Anyway, as you can see, it's not just this building that puts a skip in our step. We like each other. We actually like each other. You know, we get along so well. It's a joy to come to work. It really is. It's a joy to come to work, and we've got some fairly funny people in that group you just saw. They didn't put their full humor on display, but we have a good time. So we're going to continue to have a good time. With I referenced there were a few in the crowd that actually have been through 2 grand openings, and we're going to have one of them speak to us here. Don Vanneman was actually the first EVP, full-time EVP. Now, before he comes up, I want to shout out to, over there is Jesse Sopapina. Raise your hand there. That is the architect. I just saw him out of the corner of my eye. That is the architect of this building. We didn't even know he was coming. That's fine work. So anyway, with that, I'll pass the mic over to Don, and he'll regale you with stories.
I was told you like history and you like kind of the unwritten stuff. So I had to write it down a little bit. Just so you know, this is not a bullet hole. This is my guardian angel. It was given to me by the mayor of Salzburg, Austria, when we were over there looking at cattle. I came to Bozeman in 1959, come to college here at MSU in agriculture. And there was a place out west of town called the Beaver Pond. Had a sign on the wall that said, "Welcome to Bozeman. 12,000 friendly people and a couple old soreheads." Got to remember that. I graduated there, got drafted in the military. Don Burnham called and said, "Montana Beef Performance looking for a secretary. You better interview." I did. I was hired. I traveled. When I got hired, there was about 100 members. When I left 4 years later, there were 1,200 members. We had 7 test stations. You remember back in those days, we really only had 3 breeds, Hereford, Angus, and Shorthorn. And just a few Charolais starting to come in. I even got thrown out of a meeting in Sheridan, Montana, because I promoted crossbreeding between Hereford and Angus. Those Hereford guys didn't like that. Of course, going to the small cattle you could pat under your belt buckle got us into dwarfism. So Simmental came along just at the right time. Ray Woodward's one of my heroes. He was the geneticist for Miles City Research Station. He came to my office 4 times and said, "Don, you need to be the first secretary of American Simmental Association." I kept saying, "No, there's good cattle in every breed. I don't want to represent just one." But he convinced me, and Dale Davis was the president of Montana Beef. He was one of the best Angus breeders in the U.S., and Jack Cooper had Herefords, and They both encouraged me to go. Well, when I had to pay my own way to Omaha, I got there and found out there were 14 other candidates for the job, and two of them were actually on the board of directors. So I tried to get some sleep that night, and one of the guys from Illinois, one of the board members, came to me and said, "Don, go in that meeting and act like you're dumb." He said, "I got a better job for you at Pioneer Hybrid Seed." He said, "We're going to be selling bulls out of a catalog like we sell seed corn. We're going to sell red 231 and black 452, and we won't have a picture of them. You know, you don't see seed corn." He said, "The world will be your oyster. You'll have your own Learjet." And I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. But I went in there and I promoted. I said, I'm going to be Don Vanneman. And I got hired. $350 a month. Man, I was on Easy Street. The first office was Sadie Bembrick's log cabin over on College, across from the university. A 3-room log cabin. I think we were there about 6 months. By the time I had 3 secretaries, you had to crawl over the front desk to get to the back one, and the neighbors were all talking about these pretty girls coming in. So we moved up to Ty Lane. My first duty as secretary, I had to go to Las Vegas to the Beef Expo. And while I was there, Parisian was there, and I signed up the 100th member. And when I left here, I think we had 42,000 members. And everybody expected me to know their name when we went to the convention. That was the tough part. That's kind of why I left my wife at home, so I didn't have to introduce her. Well, I sat down the first day and there were 136 registrations, but nobody had ever registered Parisian in Bismarck. So I called the University of Kansas and said, "I'm going to cancel all your half-blood heifers, because we got to have an 001 and an 002 in Parisian and Bismarck." So that's what we did. From then on, I personally hand-typed probably the first 100 members and probably the first 2,000 registration certificates. And I think we had an electric typewriter that had that correct thing that you put in the top, you know. We used to run all of our stuff on the computer at the university. But we started getting too big. So we hired Boeing. Boeing required key punch cards. It's dry in Montana. It's wet in Seattle. Of course, we were impressed. They had 4.5 acres of computers. We thought they could do the job. We got it cheap because we would send it on a Friday, we'd process it on a Saturday, and we'd come back on the airplane on Monday. So we had a 1-week turnaround. But those key punch things were kind of noisy, clunk, clunk, clunk. I think we had 6 of them. So I built some frames for them with that Corning glass sound dampener inside them. But Boeing built airplanes, they didn't know anything about a cow. You know, we started getting 900-pound birth weights. So I had to go to Boeing, and we had 350 different edits for the raw data going in. I got a hold of all the brand location codes from all the states, and here I got this registration in for 3 animals, and it said FH. I said, "Well, what the crow is FH?" So I had to call the guy, and he said, "Well, you know, when you brand them on the right side, they turn left, and you brand them on the left side, they turn right." He said, "But they always look at you He said, man, I brand them right between the eyes on the forehead. Cost me $350 to get the forehead put in the computer. That's all he ever registered was 3 animals. I imagine they made it past 6 months a day. I got to tell a heartwarming story about Don Burnham. You know, I think I worked for Barty for a year, and Barty didn't think that Nancy married the right guy. But the first sale was up in Great Falls, Adam Schweitzer, and we said, Barty, he's an Angus guy. Barty's dyed in the world Angus. Her dad. So we go up to this sale. Barty says, yeah, I'd love to see that sale. And we get there, there's 9 scalpers sitting in front of us. We're going to buy all these ugly Simmental calves. And Don had already bred 300 and some cattle to Simmental, and Barty thought the worst thing anybody could ever do. And first little half-blood heifer came in, 6 months old, brought $3,500. Barty's mouth dropped open, and he looked at his worthless son-in-law, and he said, oh my God, you're rich, you're rich, you're rich. Well, then we moved to Simmental Way. And in February, when Edsel had the foundation laid, we had one of those Chinooks. We had about 3 feet of snow go into the basement. That wouldn't work, so we built the basement up another 3 feet. He also had an architect design it that put windows that wouldn't open because we were going to be climate controlled. Well, the day before we moved in, a daggum skunk got in the air conditioning system and we couldn't move in for 2 weeks. I hope some of these windows open. While I was there, I guess we started growing too fast. There used to be a sign out by Three Forks and one in Livingston that said, entering the most popular and populous purebred Hereford area in the world. So Simmental started taking over where the Herefords were, and so right at the entrance to Simmental Lane there was a big billboard went up, and in the middle it said American Hereford Association. On the left it was an ad for Marlboro cigarettes, and on the right was an ad for Jim Beam whiskey. So I took a picture of it, and I put it in my talk. I showed it all over the United States. Said, here's 3 habits most ranchers should break. Well, we wanted to get in the National Western Stock Show in Denver, but it was kind of run by the Hereford and Angus boys, and they didn't want Simmental in there, so I went to the Denver Hilton and I talked to the manager and I said, you know, we'd like to have our convention in the Denver Hilton and have a cattle sale here. He said, gee, many Christmas. We just spent $500,000 remodeling the grand ballroom and you want to put cows in there? I said, no, we're going to put the cows in the basement. We're going to bring in a bunch of straw and bed them down, and we can use your freight elevator. It'll hold 2 cattle at a time. We'll take them up 3 floors, put a ramp in here. They'll walk through the new commercial kitchen and into the sale arena and out the other side, 2 down the elevator. Then what happens if the elevator breaks? Well, we had to hire the Otis elevator guy from Seattle to come out and ride the elevator up and down the whole sale. We had such a successful sale, I think it grossed more than any of the sales at the stock show that, gee, we got invited to the National Western Stock Show the next year. But they put us in the sheep shed. Steve Garst, I think he bred about 5,000 cows. He called me one day and he says, Don, what we gonna do? And I said, what do you mean, what we gonna do? He said, well, you know, in Switzerland they train all the horns to grow up, and here all the Hereford guys pull them down. He said, I got to buy 15,000 horn weights. You know, you start with the big ones and go smaller, or smaller and go big. I used to put some of those on cattle, but I said, Steve, saw them off. I said, them horns aren't worth a thing, so he did. Well, I helped form 40 state associations while I was here. Is anybody from Tennessee? I don't think there's anybody that's on the board. The weirdest association I formed was in Tennessee. I walked in the room and there were 3 guys there. Now I'm going to change the names, but the big guy said, I'll be president. Billy Bob, you be vice president. Billy Joe, you're secretary. Meeting adjourned. Liberty Bowl's on in an hour. We got seats on the 50-yard line. Then there was no World Federation. We tried to form it in Denver. A lot of Europeans came to the conventions. Senckenberg was about 6'9", and he ruled the Europeans with an iron hand. He says, nope, we're not going to form it here. We're going to form it in Zagreb, Yugoslavia. So that's what we did. 27 member countries joined. They wouldn't let me take my projector in and show pictures of the U.S. because it was a communist country. And the way they ran cattle over there was they chained their necks together. There'd be 4 or 10 cattle chained together and a little guy behind them with a whip, and they'd run them up and down the fields, and they'd put them up for the night, I guess. We went to leave the country, and all of a sudden 9 tanks came onto the airstrip, pointing at us. They had each one of us line up and open our luggage, and some colonel walked by, and there was 2 guys with machine guns beside them. I didn't know what was going on, but they rifled through all of our gear and said, okay, we packed it back up, got on the airplane, the tanks left, and the minute the wheels went up, boy, everybody on that plane started singing, America! But we got it founded. Pat Spirey was our attorney's wife. We took the board to Europe one time to see all the breeds of cattle. We were in Dijon, France, and they came with this little bitty dessert. Patty says, hey, I'm in France. I want a dessert that'll put 10 pounds right here. Took them about 15 minutes, and they brought a dessert that probably put 10 pounds on it. Pat Wilson, at our founding meeting, he was from Frostproof, Florida. He was real quiet. I don't know how many of you know Pat. He became a super good friend. But they were all telling how many acres they had, how many cows they run, and they finally asked Pat, said, Mr. Wilson, how many cows do you run down there in Florida? Pat says, well, boys, I probably spend more on drench and dip than you boys make in the cow business. Pat ran 20,000 cows, and he was one of the founding members of Simmental. Anyway, when we went to Europe, he had 3,000 acres of citrus, so he'd buy everybody a pitcher of orange juice. And Pat and I'd go walking every morning about 5 o'clock, and we came back to the hotel in Bern one day, and they were unloading orange juice. And Pat said, look at that, Florida orange juice. We walked up there, and it said South Africa on it. Pat wouldn't let anybody drink any more orange juice the rest of the trip. The board had about 9 kids, and Montredy and Burns said, I'm going to make you guys something really special for your last night. And he served us fondue. It's kind of cheese with wine in it, and you dip bread. And, well, the first kid dipped his in there and said, oh, yuck. And the next kid said, oh, yuck. Next kid, oh, yuck. So Pat got up and he started marching all the kids around the table singing, you deserve a break today, McDonald's, because there was one a block away. Oh. And boy, that head waiter got pretty ticked. Most outrageous thing, I think, in my years here, I gave a talk up in Lewistown, and some rancher came up to me afterwards and he says, you got an AI to get these Simmental? I says, yep, it's the only way you can get them. We don't have a quarantine station. Got to bring all the semen in from Canada. He says, well, they mix that semen with egg white to put it in those big canisters. I says, yeah, they do. He says, well, I ain't going to breed no calves that have feathers on them. Well, after 10 years and them wanting to move the association to Texas 3 times and Kansas 3 times, that sign got to me. There was a couple old soreheads, and they really did a job on me, so I decided to resign. That was in '79. I went to be a ranch broker. Since then, I've sold 460 Montana ranches. At least it kept me in a little bit of income, so now I can still buy name brand underwear. Thank you for letting me ramble.
Wonderful. Wonderful. If you haven't had a chance, make sure you go into the boardroom and look at that stained glass window. And that was going back to the very early days. The founding fathers, the statement that you read on that stained glass window goes a long ways to showing us how we got to where we are now. That was a very strong, well-written, for those days, it was very visionary. So now we'll have Dr. Earl Peterson, who's actually a NDSU graduate. Nobody said go Bison. Where's the haircut? Come on.
Thanks, Wade.
Better than Go Grizz.
You know, folks, I've been a Bison since 1947. I remember the year they didn't score a touchdown. Obviously, they didn't win any games. Next year, they didn't win any games either, but they did score 2 touchdowns. So I'm a little bit proud of being a Bison, and I get a lot of grief from people that are on. I grew up in, was born in Iowa, grew up 7 years in northern Idaho, then went back to the farm, my granddad's farm in western North Dakota. But what I want to do for just a few minutes, if you'll indulge with me a little bit, I wrote out, I'm never unprepared, and so for 4 days I've been working on this, and about 80% of it has been covered. But one thing I do have to say, when Don retired or resigned in '79, and actually it was '78, Don, and I took over, one of the things that everybody on the board and on the staff and out in the country reminded me constantly is that you sure as hell ain't no Don Vanneman. And to this day, I'm not. So what I would like to do, and please give me a little bit of latitude, but I would like to take you back to what it was like to have been a person involved in starting a breed association in what, 1968, Don? 69. Okay, so over 50 years. It's been over 50 years. So let's just take a look back. It was an experiment, plain and simple, high risk, unconventional, non-conforming to traditional beef breed or beef industry traits and the registry standards that were in existence at that time. Don said there were only about 3 beef breeds that counted, I think. None of them had an upgrading program where you could start with a commercial animal and get a registration certificate. None of them had open AI. In fact, at that time, I believe the Hereford and Angus Association both had a prohibition against artificial breeding. You had to, if you weren't going to register a calf, you had to have a natural service. Performance concepts were kind of looked at, but they were not encouraged. And with the help of Don and the pioneers, it became mandatory in this new experiment called a beef association. But the most important thing in my mind was that it was based on commercial producers. Now, there was a guy in Alberta by the name of Travers Smith, and Don knew him well, a Mormon missionary. Parisian, the bull he's talking about, came out of France, couldn't get it into the United States because of our prohibition against hoof and mouth disease. So Parisian came into Canada and came into Alberta because there were some pretty progressive breeders of 2 or 3 of the breeds in Alberta, the province of Alberta. Travers Smith got a hold of the right to merchandise semen from Parisian. And being in Alberta, where was the first place he was going to head? He was going to head south to Montana. And so Travers Smith toured and drove the back roads of Montana, North and South Dakota, and Wyoming, peddling semen to commercial producers. $6 a dose, a bargain. There you go. As an economist, that just tickles my heart to no end. But here was just stop and think about it. Here's a guy traveling probably an old beat up pickup with a semen tank, selling semen to commercial producers of a bull that wasn't eligible to come into the United States. And so from that, those were the humble beginnings. Now Don's covered a little bit about his speech. This is kind of like an accordion. We're going to have to expand and contract here a little bit. One of the concepts that the American Simmental Association started out with, not an annual membership, but a lifetime membership. $100 a head. Rental space for the office, new building in 72. Records. Ancestry records were traditional pedigree oriented there. Data included birth date, weaning weight, yearling weight. Now the Simmental said, you're not just optional on those things, that's required. You have to have a weaning weight for a heifer, a weaning and a yearling weight for a sire, for a bull. And the basis for that came out of the state beef cattle improvement organizations like Don headed up here in Montana. And so when you got to printing registration certificates at that time, you'd have the background, the pedigree background on the sire, but most of them were commercial cows. So the pedigrees were unknown at the time. So you'd have a background on the sire side, one entry on the dam side. But that's where it started. He talked about Boeing. One of the problems with the Boeing processing was it was an airplane parts software system that they actually used. And every time a record went through the system, it ticked a little counter that ticked another counter that charged us money. And after Don got out and recruited all these members and they started providing all this data, weaning weights, birth weights, yearling weights, that computer was going tick, 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 tick. And Steve came over one day, and I was the finance guy here for 3 or 4 years under Don, and he said, we're going to go broke paying Boeing for processing of these records. There was a guy on the board at the time by the name of Lou Chestnut. He'd been involved with the Charlet Association, and Lou was not a very big guy, and he would stand up, and if he couldn't get the attention, he'd stand on the chair, and he would say, listen, the damn computer just about broke the Charlet Association. We're not going to have one here. Well, Steve sat down and did some amortization. That's a finance term. And it just basically says, how long will it take to recoup the investment that it's going to take to have a computer in-house to replace Boeing? And I think we came out with 2.5, 3 years, something like that. And so guys like Jess Kilgore and others kind of strong-armed Lou, and they agreed to it. So a guy from Data Point in someplace in Texas, San Antonio, came up here and sat in the old building over there, the new building done, and wrote software for a year, and we took over the operations of the record system. Again, going back to my original comments, an experiment. New, non-traditional. crazy different ideas. But that was your basis for it. So the sire summary then became possible because we had data. And I think, Don, when was the first sire summary produced? 71. I came on board in 75, so it was old hat by the time I got here. But to do the sire summary, you had to evaluate all of these records. Well, along the way, I had the chance to visit with the Australian Simmental Society and was visiting with them about their record base and our record base. A lot of similarities because of the World Federation, Don. And one day I had a guy call from the airport, don't remember his first name, or his, Hans, yeah, I knew his first name was Hans. He came through and he said, I talked to the Australian people and they tell me that you've got a pretty good database here. And I'd like to come out and visit with you. So, you know, I'm an economist. Steve is a records guy. So he sat down with Steve and talked to me for a couple of days. He went on from here to Cornell, where he sat down with a couple of guys named John Pollock and Dick Quast, because they did the dairy herd improvement records for that northeast quadrant of the United States where they have a lot of dairy cows. And there was a system they called the BLUP, Best Linear Unbiased Predictor, that was made possible sire evaluation, predictability, accuracy, genetic inheritance, those kinds of things. So they called me and said, we'd like to talk to you about doing your records. I said, well, who are you? Well, they give me the names in Cornell. And at that time, we were doing business with a guy named Paul Miller out of ABS. So I called Paul and I said, I got a call from these two fellas. What do I do about it? He said, don't walk, run to the next phone and call the board together and get going on this, because those are the two best minds in the industry, bar none, for sire evaluation. So we entered into an agreement with them. And in those days, Don, they took the records to the biggest computer they had in the engineering school at Cornell University and tied it up for 5 days to do all of the computations and the iterations and the massaging of the data in order to do the sire summary. Well, my point here is that I think you could do it here today in about 2 hours on the computers upstairs. So here's this grand experiment, this revolutionary concept, this whole different approach to doing business, and look where it is today. I have no idea where it's going to be 5 years from now. If I'm alive, I may come back and just talk. I was talking to Steve the other day about what they're doing. Do you realize that they're doing genetic evaluation across breeds? Now, Don, when we were in the business, that was unheard of. That was unheard of. But my point is that from the humble beginnings of commercial producers, people with a performance background who had the vision and the will and the determination and the courage to try something new, here you are today. Those of you who are breeders or field men or staff people, you're here because those people took an idea and ran with it. And that was a little over 50 years ago. What it'll be 50 years from now, I don't know. But if the good Lord smiles on me and gives me a ticket to the right place, I'll be looking down at all of you.
Thank you very much, Bill. So, unfortunately, Jerry, the just previous EVP, could not be here. His son is in town, and he's been tied up with the family over the week. We do have, right over there, my good friend from the north, Bruce Holmquist, has asked to have some time on the program. I don't know what he's up to, but I trust him enough to give him the microphone.
Thank you, Wade. It's a real honor to be here. Bring greetings from the Canadian Simmental Association. It's been a long history between the U.S. and Canada in a lot of ways, and especially in the Simmental breed, with Parisian coming first. And I won't even try to get into the history because I'll screw something up, but we do have our 50th anniversary of Parisian coming to Canada next year. So we have some plans for some different events, and invite you to, we will communicate it to you and invite you to come up. As I was listening to the reasons for the importations and whatnot, I thought of that Hereford laying there and got lump jaw, not prolapsed yet. But that's some of the reasons that Simmental came here. And I think it was, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, Don or Earl, but it was about $500 a piece that Travers Smith and 11 other folks put into the pot to go over and get Parisian, select them, get them in quarantine, and get them here. It's so different now when we take for granted the technology that we have, and think about going over to Europe to do these things. Ken Wells, the federal vet in Canada, played a large role in getting things to happen. But Travers, on his way over, got to Ottawa, and he had a tight time frame to get the bull selected and get him into quarantine. He forgot he didn't have a passport. So he got a rush put on. Within a few hours, he did have a passport and got on his way. I guess this is a story of success in a lot of ways. And over the years, my background in the breed is as a breeder, and I was 16 years old when I bought my first Simmental in 1977, and been part of the promotion of the breed, showed a lot of them, part of the group that made them bad, part of the group that's brought them back to useful cattle that we have now. I came on the Canadian board in 2000 and became the breed improvement chair, and through my travels here, I've got to know a lot of you very well. Clay Calber asked something about, made the comment a bit ago to me about, well, you seem to be on the road a lot, or sure come down a lot, or whatever. It's by choice, okay? I could be going over to Poland. The world meetings are on next week. I chose Bozeman because of the people, and it's the people that made the breed. The breed made it because of all of you. So anyways, without rambling on too much, I would like to present this picture to, I guess, Dale Miller, the current chair. And this is to celebrate the relationship that Canadian Simmental has had with the American Simmental Association. It is a picture from the Cardston area. It's one that we had commissioned for our World Congress in 2006. Got a little more white on, and they're all red, and they're kind of traditional, but that's the roots of where we come from. So thank you, congratulations, and keep up the good work.
So with that, I guess we'll eat. Eat a lot? Oh, sorry.
We'd like the present board members to come up and sign the shovel, and then if you could get Chip would take your picture real quick, and then everybody else can go in and eat if they want, and then, right? Oh, so.
Hopefully everybody got a ticket. Now's the time to take the ticket out. So these tickets are, can I hand this? Yep. So I think over the past, well, certainly today, and the staff has been thinking about it a lot lately, but just kind of the transition from the old building to the new building, and the new historical booklet that we put together, that Emmy put together, and then, you know, the theme of our educational session is tuning technology with tradition. So with that in mind, we put together 2 little gift baskets for door prizes, and one is a traditional gift basket with a throwback Simmental caps, 2 throwback Simmental caps, and some local goodies, and a book on the record of our achievement that was written? When was that written, Wade? Anyway, so that's the first door prize. And that lucky winner is 413-6967. 6967, cool. There we go. Enjoy those caps. They're very cool. Okay, so the next basket, to kind of mirror the first one, we've got the latest cookbook that Rhea Lanting and some of the other spouses put together. We've got a couple of the current caps and again some goodies from Bozeman. And that goes to 413-6890. 890. All right. Enjoy. Okay. Nope.
So feel free to move through, and we'll have to do it in somewhat orderly fashion, obviously, but get in there, Don. So anyway, time to eat, and eat a lot. Thank you for coming.
Yes. Yeah, you really helped us. So now you're doing you're still working? Oh yeah, good job. You gotta love it. You know, if I always said if I is the architect there? Just have
Thank you for having us out. Appreciate it. Thank you for having us out.
That's in my
It is. We do a quick discount. That's what we're not known. I'm glad we were here for it. That's a great history. I grew up on a dairy farm.
Well, there's a big gym.
Thank you.
Like I was like, I'll be back in the back.
Would all the current board members please come to the front of the building? If you're a current board member, please come to the front of the building.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. That was interesting. Yeah, that's true.
You never done anything. I know.
I know, isn't that gorgeous? It is beautiful. Oh. I better go get them signing.
Are you going live with all this? Yeah. You're so wonderful.
Yes.
Love it.
Thank you.
Learn something. I don't feel like
So this is being broadcast.
Where should I put that?
I'm gonna back up.
I didn't know you were taking it. I only got
Thank you.
So it's been on all day.
He was trying to convince me he was.
Thank you. Hey, thank you.
Okay. No, not a problem. Glad to have you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I gotta get you that video today, so my email today.
I thought they were going to sign it.
I'll get it Wednesday.
Oh, I missed it.
So, on the property.
Are they going to eat?
Kathy getting this all recorded here?
You're all live.
We're all
Say.
oh, going all over. Not just recorded. We're live. So you mean I didn't really have to come to watch this? I could have stayed up.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
That was terrible to say where everybody could hear
They won't sleep in.
I just had to come out to the sun.
It's cold, isn't it? Are you still going? Yeah. This is Jackie McGuire, Steve's lovely wife. I'm going to go find it. Oh, I'm not going to get through. I'm going to put it back here.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, that's...
I'm going to hide back here.
Oops. You got the beautiful mountains.
It's awesome. Hey.
Hey.
How we doing? Good.
I thought he might like
Well, that's what I think. That's what I think. Well, you know, it started. Everybody else. Exactly. I said, everybody's on the water.
Yeah, everybody's. How are you? Good. That's pretty There's some people don't. And we don't. We don't.
Facebook people want to see the Mountain View.
So I think there's an opportunity still there. I just want to get control of that property because if I don't, we'll be fine. And at that point, MDOT may tell me that I have to have my nonprofit there and stuff, but I'll find a way to. Yeah. Well, the police and fire have agreed to come and testify. They've been forced a public safety issue that they need to now put that through. So there's enough people lined up, I think, that a quick rule will be so. I mean, thoroughly. Craig's not right. We have a lot of things. We can't get this. Because the lady went on vacation for 2 weeks
So we found 3 or 4 things over there, and they pieced it all together. So it looks like one. Well, we were on. This morning, yeah, we good.
Just stand right here and here's it. They're texting, asking. But I want people.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
We're walking the field. That's good. There.
Let's do it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Good. Actually, you're not there. They took like good. So you guys should be 80. Yeah.
Big day. He's got to touch the CRS.
Yeah, yeah, it was not so much about
Did you meet the interview? They're out there.
Okay.
South. It's like a whole different country.
It's a live feed for Facebook. Okay, from the other side.
That was cute. You did good.
Let's see. Yeah.
We've met. Yep.
Yeah. Then for a while we were waiting.
So you've been here since 4:30.
No, but it's
Check it out.
But I didn't think look at how he came out. And I asked him
I wanted one for when this board was here.
We've all been surprised on the polls.
We get out of your way. And they end up being good for them. Nice.
I was on the back of that red car. That's good.
And they moved. So I got
Vice President highlight.
Really can't do.
Oh,
It was actually
We ought to do.
It works in your benefit.
We're gonna do it. All we gotta do, we get that microphone inside.
Let everybody get through their digestion.
You know, we had that phone the first time.
I know, it's too bad all the cars are there. You know what, though? It's so nice and clear because of the rain, but it's so nice. You couldn't see anything. Yeah. Yeah. Here we get these guys. I know, it's peeking out. It's awesome.
Well, when we get those, give them all. Then you want all the
Kind of gets out of yeah, it gets a little blurry.
There's no reason for that. I'll get you photos.
You want photos? You're not hungry? You're not hungry? Yeah, but it's fun to show you the place knows what's going to put together. Leaving it. Oh.
Can't view the building.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's a good thing that they're doing.
Wait a big old thank you, man, for giving in.
Because mine has that version, but you were going to set up a
Yeah, we want you to be done. Yeah, because it's our own catalog. Yeah, we are.
I've used it. Yeah, I've used it for
There's something that makes our
Oh, it's going this way. Yeah.
You told me, and I don't remember.
But it works like quarter maybe.
Never thought it was hard. I really enjoyed it.
Still do the what works for you. It's easier to be a place to sign. Right, red ones you need to make that. Something wrong in the oh yeah, so they didn't follow. But I mean,
yeah, I'll be here. Yep.
That's what I'm saying. It's not in Wells Fargo, building down and everything. It's crazy to watch them play to wash those windows. Just suspended up there. No, we're gonna relax. Working on anything with replacements. But yeah, black and white bag replacements. Now we're on camera again. Why are you hiding? They're hiding.
What's for dinner?
Yes, go eat. Absolutely. Not chicken.
Chicken.
Not this fancy.
Certified Angus beef.
Yeah.
I'm Marty.
You know, which ones pick out the flush? So which test it is, the Coca-Cola is different from the Coke test. And then, you know, it also helps, you know,
Good turnout.
Couldn't make it in, so I think he just come up and take it. So he got up there, first thing he does, explains the situation and he says, I'm just a substitute, but that reminded me of the truck.
No, not what it's here, but I mean, it's not bad. Yeah.
That's still quite a line.
They bring their bowls.
Yes, I saw it. He was driving. Again, I think if for the one producer, those general regions, you're going to have a until we get
Tomorrow it's a whole day. They have speakers that have
You doing it right?
We'll enjoy it. We have a great time.
I am.
So, have fun, guys.
Let's go get them now. Did you eat?
Yeah.
Did you eat?
Working on it. There's the food line. Whoops.
Are you still filming?
Yeah.
Hello.
If I could get in, then I could put it in the corner. She's like, yep, I'm still filming. Excuse me. Beep, beep, beep.
About the difficulty sometimes of us using an outside source of
I'm going to sneak through. Thank you. Sorry. Put this in a corner.
Thank you, George. Jeff, I I'm not much on buying, I'm just on selling.
daughter reminds me of that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I have to make it quick though. There's not much room. Hello.